it's out of your hands, it deserves freedom from your mind, too. Hello, and welcome to the Basket Case Immersive on Brent Oliver, or as his clients know him, Purple. We will be diving into some of the key themes of mindfulness from Brent's episode and how they apply to you. I'll give you the basics, lay of the land, and a ground level intro to mindfulness and how it can affect your own mental game. As always, this is a jumping off point for you to discover what works for you in your own mental game. So take it or leave it. Also, the advice you're about to hear is conversational, not clinical. I'm not a mental health professional, a mindfulness coach, or a sports psychologist, but I do know a great one. If you have questions or want to give Purple's free mindfulness consultation a try, reach out to him at brentpurpleoliver.com or on social media at bpurpleoliver. I will put the links to those in the show notes. So let's get ready to flex our mental muscles and be more mindful.
Come on, y'all.
Brent had so many great insights, and from here on out, I'm hoping to have at least one mental game expert or non-disc golf playing professional on the show. So if you fit that description or you know someone who does, please get in touch with me. I would love to hear from them, or you. I thought that Brent's approach of being himself was really refreshing. He is not your typical talk slow and soothing shaman type. It was so much more relatable and relaxing because you felt like you were just talking to a real person or a friend, not a wannabe cult leader or somebody he's not. He was really authentically himself, and I know a lot of disc golfers out there who would really respond to this no bullshit style. If you haven't listened to Purple's episode yet, go take a listen and then come back. I first met Purple last year after Kona posted on her Instagram that she was working with a mindfulness coach. That was right around the time Kona and I had recorded, and I thought it would be a good bookend to have. So if you haven't listened to Kona's episode from that season, do that. It's absolutely a harrowing and raw moment for her when she talks about how important Purple was to her. He's been working with many disc golf clients, particularly over the last few years. So if you're a listener of the podcast and need additional help or resources with your own mental game, give him a ring and get a free consultation. So many of our guests have noted that when they were able to play their best, it was getting into an intense state of focus and narrowing in on execution, nothing more. I heard a quote once that if you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you're depressed, you are ruminating on the past. And if you're mindful, you're present in the moment. Your mind is going to wander. It just will. That's how our minds work. But what mindfulness teaches you to do is to gently bring your focus back to what you want it to be on. So even if you start thinking about the future and getting anxious about your next shot or your upcoming putt, you just gently bring your focus back to the current moment. If you start thinking about your past tournament and how you failed to achieve your goal and how you missed that putt and start getting depressed about you and your skills, you gently bring your focus back to the present moment. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. It doesn't matter what happened in the future. What matters is right now. And building the muscle of bringing your focus back to now. Pause for a moment and think through your rounds, particularly your quote-unquote bad ones, the ones where you felt your game went off the rails, and try and think about why. For me, I am addicted and obsessed with score checking. I usually offer to keep score on the card because I know I'll be watching scores anyways. And in 2024, this is top of mind for everyone. Everyone will have to keep score. They are going to have to find some better tools to bring your focus off the score and onto your current shot. I've always felt a bit of pride in saying that, like, oh yeah, I can take score. It doesn't bother me. Like I'm pretty tough or something. But as I was reflecting, I realized that some of my most prominent come apart moments happened directly after checking the scores. The problem with score checking is that it puts you out of the present moment thinking about future moments. If they make this putt, if I go OB. When you should be focused on the now, and focusing on the future will bring that anxiety up. And a major loss of focus on the present moment, which is what you need to execute the shot and not go OB. Sometimes I would check the scores because I felt I was doing bad, only to realize that everyone was doing about the same as me. But this would either stop the fire I had to push to continue to do well and score, relaxing me into the middle of the pack rather than pushing forward, or realizing I was only 1 or 2 strokes off the lead, in which case I fell apart the last few holes. In both cases, checking the scores made me worse, because suddenly the shot I was throwing weren't just the shots. They were weighted, or as Brent defined it, they contained more friction and left more residue. Suddenly, every action had a multiverse of possibilities, outcomes, hopes, and fears attached to it, and caused me to be overly tense or too relaxed rather than focused on the here and now and focused on execution, nothing else. Our listener send this week is Brooks Mischel, who is near and dear to me because he's the one who gave me the putter in Colorado that I mentioned in Roncon Jr.'s episode. Brooks is a 970 rated golfer in the Colorado area and a professional ball golf caddy, so he has some really great insights. He told me so many stories, I only could pick a few for this episode, but they all revolved around mindfulness related areas like focus and like vibes on the card. So I picked these 2 stories because they give us an example of both focusing on execution rather than past mistakes, and how that helped him achieve his goals, and how focusing on either your opponents or the bad shots can lead to like a rage quit. So without further ado, here is Brooks' story.
So I'm Brooks Mischel. I'm a 970 rated golfer. I'm not like a top tier rated golfer. I was getting better and better. My averages were going up, but like I told you, Chelsea, for the last year I've been doing vertigo since March. So
wild.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's something that has kind of messed up my game in a way. I was averaging I feel like I was like 990 rated golf for the second half of last year. And then I got vertigo for the month of March, and I wasn't able to leave my apartment but 4 times that whole month, I
Oh my
think.
gosh.
Yeah. So I was kind of cooped up inside, and then since then I've been just going to doctors trying to figure out what's going on.
That's wild.
And just little things like you don't think it would affect you. And like what for some people who don't know what vertigo is like there's different forms of vertigo where you can have inner ear stuff going on or like a viral infection, or for my case it's like everybody has crystals in their ears, and if I lay on my back and I'm laying flat, it can like affect my whole balance and everything. So that
is
kind
wild.
of yeah. So like
Gosh.
these little crystals clog up like the little tubes that have fluids going through them, and like you have to unflush them by like doing weird head movements, like laying down on the ground. But that's something I've been just dealing with. So I'm trying to get back to normal and like get my game back to normal, because right now backhand is not fun, because when the vertigo started turning, like that rotation, everything was kind of messing with me. And like as far as mental game goes, like you were saying, is mentally, like I know I can throw backhand, I know it's there. In certain scenarios I just trust the forehand more. It feels right, where right now I feel like 1 out of every 10 throws my timing is off, and I'll do like this grip lock thing where I just yank it right, and it's just not a fun thing. So
Oh, that's so scary. Yeah, then
yeah,
I was wondering, is it gonna be weird on this throw?
yeah, well, and it's not that it's like weird anymore. It's like once I fix, like I said, it's called epi maneuver, where I lay down and do the head movements. Everything feels pretty much normal. It's affected me is I didn't know the correct ways to fix it until like late this summer. By that point, like all the work I've put in the past just kind of like have been slipping away just because field work and everything. Like I just need to get out there and
Mm.
just throw for hours and just get that normal throw back to me. But
Mhm.
forehand looking normal, looking straight, everything feels normal. So for instance, as far as mental game goes, there have been times where everybody sees it. Other people who don't do well mentally, and then people who do well mentally. The best times I've noticed is when you have like something to make you focus on disc golf. For
Mm.
instance, like with me for wind, like I love playing in wind. A lot of people don't like playing in wind
Hmm.
because it gives me that extra 10 seconds to focus on a shot.
Hmm.
There's times where I'm not as focused and I tell myself, oh, I'm just going to grab a disc and throw because I think it works. But the more I've told myself before events and the more I've told like my body, like take that extra 10 seconds, even though your gut feeling most of the time is right, there are times that you need to take that extra 20 to 30 seconds, be like, is this right? I don't know. Like take a deep breath, think about what's going on around you. Sometimes wind is a factor where like you just grab a disc you want to throw and you're like, oh, that was completely the wrong shot. Um, so wind is something that like I take that extra 30 seconds always and just like, all right, this is it. This is what I want to do. And use that time. So events where wind is there, I play better, which I kind of like go into tournaments saying, I hope it's windy. And everybody's like, why? And
That's
that's kind of why. It's like, it's kind of one of those things that I feel like I play better in than some other people. And I wish I could get that mindset all the time. I love when you can like find that one person on the card like right before an event and you can just be like, yo, we're gonna be vibing together. Let's both shoot
yes.
a good
Oh my
round.
gosh.
And it works out. Like I remember watching the Pro Tour Championships. Did you see the Adam Hammes and Emerson's agreement they did? So they both were on like a fifth or sixth card out, like not doing as good. And I loved how they said, hey, in the beginning of the round, they said, if one of us makes it, we're gonna go and caddy for each other. And that's like one of those things
Oh,
that sticks with me because it's like, hey, we're gonna caddy for each other, and if we do well, we're gonna give each other 10% of our payout. And I think like stuff like that,
that's so
where
cool.
you can find somebody and you just have fun with them, and like just have that cool like vibey moment, and you both play well. In Colorado States this year, there was an event where the first round of the tournament, I was dealing with my vertigo, and first four holes, I went par, bogey, double bogey. And
Oh
I
no.
just didn't feel right. Nothing felt right. And they're not even super hard holes. It's like each hole is very gettable, like par, 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 like at worst. It's really like you should be going birdie, birdie, par, par. Like if I had like a perfect start to a tournament on that tournament, that would have been birdie, birdie, par, par. And I was just like getting down on myself. Like I was like, what's wrong? And then walking over to one of the tee pads, hole 5. I remember falling down because like I was so dizzy and like I was like so out of it.
Got it.
And yeah, walking over the tee pad, I laid down, did my thing, and everybody around me was like, "What are you doing right now?" I was like, "I got to
You're
do
like, I
this because
gotta do
like,
my head stretches.
yeah, yeah." I was like, I gotta flush the fluids in my ears because like I'm not doing well. Like I'm like, and I thought it was like because there's times where I can feel it, but it doesn't like feel like it's affecting me, like the vertigo. It's like I just feel a tiny bit off. I mean, once I fell down, I was like, "Oh, I'm really messed up right now." So like and it's so uncontrollable. Like I wish I was like always I could just snap my fingers and never feel that again. It wasn't a terrible round, but I think after the first round, it was out of 70 something people, it was like 55th place or 50 something
Mm.
place.
Mhm.
And I was like, God, like I just if I could just take back the round that I started, like because I feel like I started 5 over on the tournament. I mean, my goal at that point was just cash. So went home. Luckily, one of my good friends, George McManus in Colorado, he let me and my buddy stay at his place instead of staying at a hotel. He's like, yeah, dude, come over, like enjoy. And he had a whole basement that we were just comfortable in. It felt like at a home. It wasn't like we were at a hotel where we had to go out for every meal. He would cook meals every night. I was like, it was the
Oh,
greatest thing like
sweet.
we could ask for. Going into the next day, we were playing 2 different courses. It was at Lower Badlands Adams Hollow, Lower Badlands. This is in Denver, Colorado. The other course the next day, fairly windy, nothing too crazy, but enough to make you think about like what's going on. So that first round, I just looked at the ratings. I shot a 920 rated round. I was like, this is awful. Like it wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
But for starting 5 holes in,
Yeah.
getting back to like almost even par, I was like, okay, that's really not that bad. I had played Adams Hollow before they redid the course in the past, and then we were playing it fresh, like a new layout this following year. And a couple shots, errant shots, like I could have mitigated, I think 3 strokes throughout the round, but I ended up shooting like a 9 or 8 down round.
Nice.
With it was like a 990 something rated round, and it was stupid little up shots that like I wish I took the extra 10-20 seconds to think about it, because like I just grabbed disc and threw. But again, disc golf, we all do it. Like we just think like, oh, it's easy, let's do it. But like in tournament play, you got to take that extra time and just mentally focus and get back into it. And I think after that second round, I was in the high 30s placement
Nice.
wise.
That's
So I
way
bumped
better.
up a good 20 places or something like that. And I was like, yeah, this is sick. This is sweet. And I just told myself the next day, is like, just mitigate the shots, mitigate the bad shots, and have a good day. And I went in the next round and shot, I think it was like 5 under at the other course, which is like 10, 15, 10, 20 right around.
Dude,
And yeah, it was huge because like I started the day, I was like, this is going to take a lot. Like it's going to take a 7 down, 8 down to finish. But just telling yourself, like, take that extra time, take the extra minute to just focus. I ended up just getting last cash in that event, which was like top 28 in the tournament. So like moving up from 55th place to 28th place is like just starting the event and just telling myself, like, you know what? If I don't cash, it's because I started where I was at. Like it wasn't, I had a bad first round, and like people have bad rounds. It's a matter of how you bounce back to really get back into it. And like you just got to tell yourself sometimes, it's a sport I love. It's a sport I'm playing because I love it, and it's not the end of the world if you have a bad day or 2 bad days. Like you just got to look forward, look past a bad shot. Sometimes you got to look past bad couple shots even. And if you're putting in the practice, I mean, it's going to show.
that it's so true though too. Like it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. We hear that all the time. But like if somebody wins by playing a tournament where they have 4 stellar rounds in a row, good for them. That's pretty rare. Like that's pretty rare. Most of the time, someone will have at least 1 bad round, even if they win. Like they'll have a round like maybe wasn't so great. So like chill out.
Most of the time too, you watch the people who are having good rounds, or like they have consecutive good rounds. You don't see them like upset most of the time. They're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm just go with the flow. Like they're just moving one shot at a time, and like you don't see them throwing stuff, punching stuff. Like I mean, I hate to say it, I've been there where like I get frustrated, and like once I get to that point where I'm getting mad at stuff, I try to take myself out of the situation and just be like, all right, I'm here having fun, and if I need to take a break, I need to take a break. Because if I'm getting irritated at just stupid stuff, then like what's the point of like putting myself through it? Like I just need to like take a step back, work on little stuff. You know what I mean? We all been there where we get frustrated.
We've all
like,
been there mid-round being like,
and
no,
it's like
this is garbage. It is like a secret. I don't know what's the opposite of a pet peeve. One of my favorite things to watch someone slowly rage quit at disc golf, and that probably makes me a terrible person. Honestly,
you're not a terrible person for it.
it brings me so much joy. Like I just love it. And like, yes, like don't hurt people, don't hurt yourself. Like I've like watched I watched this one guy once like bend his disc in half. He was so mad, and he had like the best emo haircut too, and like I was just in love with him. Yes, I was just like, oh my gosh, please like let me travel the world with you. I just love this right now. It's not that I like condone it or that like I admire it. Like it's nothing like that. It's just like one of those things like listening to a true crime podcast
It's
where it's like,
entertaining, yeah.
yeah,
It's like adding a little
I'm a dick.
entertainment
I
factor
can't
to the
stare
game.
away. Yeah.
But if that wasn't there, then we all, I think the reason why it's so entertaining is because we've all have wanted to do it. And then when you see other people
Yes,
do it,
maybe that's
you're
it. I
just
would
like,
love to
thank
just
God I'm not
lose my
alone.
shit
Like,
and rage quit.
yeah. And then also another thing, as far as like you seeing that, like comparing yourself to other people. Have you ever done that? Like where you've been playing and you compare yourself to like what other people are doing and it just pisses you off more and more and more.
Oh, absolutely.
That's like the biggest thing. Like I've been trying not to do is like if somebody has a good shot and I have a bad shot, don't be like, why couldn't I do that? Like it's just like just
Yeah.
play your game. Play your game. You know what you can do. Don't focus on what other people can do. So
Thank you so much, Brooks, for coming on the show. I loved your stories and it was great to catch up.
The audio for this section is not recorded in my studio, so I really apologize on the sudden shift in quality. But I had a really amazing thing happen. I was contacted by Dr. Andrew Ahrendt, who is a true professional in this stuff. He's a working clinical psychologist at Nebraska Medicine Hospital, but he also works with the Union Omaha Professional Soccer Club as a sports psychologist. And he's an avid disc golfer. He's the VP of his local club and a board member and head psychology advisor for the organization Disc for Life, which is awesome. You should check it out. It's a program that uses disc golf as a means to mental health and suicide prevention. There really could not be a more perfectly qualified person to speak on this show. So I was really lucky and honored he reached out and wanted to be involved. So welcome to Andrew. I had a quick conversation with him this week on mindfulness and how it can apply to disc golf. Thank you so much for listening to the show and being up for something very new and fun in this episode. Let's do it.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good. You?
I'm great. I'm super excited to chat. I just think that having your perspective on the episodes is just going to be so much better. What are your thoughts adding to the discussion of mindfulness, how simple it can be, and maybe some exercises that people could use to apply it on and off the course?
So similar to kind of what he spoke about of having kind of like in the office and then on the course, when it's the most effective, you're doing both informal kind of day-to-day life stuff where you're being mindful while you're doing that, but then you're also practicing some like mindfulness in a formal manner too. So the difference being like formal is you're sitting down, you're taking time, you're in a quiet place, you're doing like a body scan, you're noticing the sensations that are coming, through you, noticing your breathing, noticing kind of taking in the five senses, right? How am I feeling? What am I smelling? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? And really, redirecting our attention back kind of to ourselves or to our breath in this instance. So like mindful breathing is a really good way to do this too. Just noticing when your thoughts go somewhere else and then bringing them back in a non-judgmental way. It's kind of observing that and gently bringing it back. Because, when we give something energy, that's when it becomes kind of like sticky or how he described it as like having that residue, right? And so when we're doing this formally, that's kind of laying the groundwork for then when we can do things kind of informally. And so it's similar to just like practicing in your backyard before you practice during a tournament. And then another way to really practice being mindful would be like the informal practices where you can really do anything mindfully. I mean, by definition, you're just paying attention in a specific way. And one of my favorite definitions is actually from one of the professors that I learned from, where they just said like, be where your feet are. But yeah, be where your feet are. Bring your attention to whatever it is you're doing. So, like an informal mindfulness practice would be something like brushing your teeth, something that you've done thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times. When you're walking, whatever this is, but bringing your attention to what's going on really kind of taking like a non-judgmental approach, but also really just treating it almost like a with a curiosity, where like this is almost like the very first time that you're doing it. And so really being present of, what does it feel like when I, even just bring the toothbrush up towards my nose? Does my mouth start to water? Do I start to smell, whatever it is my toothpaste is? Like what is that like? And then does the flavor of the toothpaste change while I'm like brushing my teeth? Is the texture of like different teeth, like when I'm like back in my molars, or if I'm up front, is that like a different motion that I'm making, or kind of what is this like? And so really taking this curious, non-judgmental, objective approach to just being present in that moment is going to not only help you, right, like strengthen this mindfulness muscle, but also it's just going to really allow you to take a break from all that other stuff that so often we're focused on in our day-to-day lives that are kind of future things. And what we know just in an overall mental health perspective, when we can be more present and focused in the now, we're more effective at dealing with those instances as well as kind of future ones when those do come up.
I like the idea of using mindfulness as kind of like a muscle that you're building up. It's just a muscle of focus and attention.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
in this kind of way that's curious and non-judgmental. Like when you're talking about brushing your teeth or showering, I am like totally guilty of like filling up all the space always.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be actually an interesting practice for me to try. I'll like watch Futurama while I'm brushing my teeth instead of just brushing my teeth. But I love
Yeah.
this idea of like we do certain things that are like autonomous, like our brain is using a different part of our brain, like a system 1 versus system 2 thinking. And there's times when, yeah, we're on autopilot. You don't really have to think about brushing your teeth. At this point, you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
But practicing mindfulness in those moments that are, low stress and just a good way for you to practice putting focus and attention on certain things versus others, so that then when you're, lining up a putt and you cannot stop thinking about you're gonna miss,
Right. No,
then you
exactly.
can actually, it's just a practice. You've practiced shifting your attention to certain things.
Exactly. And so this is where you can then, if you've done the formal practice, not only can you kind of rely on almost this like cognitive restructuring of saying, you know what, I did this, I can go back to this. So like I've done this before. I'm prepared. But you can also, take this because you practice so much, right? Like professionals are putting all the time. And so because you've practiced so much, you can then take this non-judgmental objective approach that is focused on accomplishing the thing, rather the task, making the putt, rather than assessing how to do it, or assessing, am I doing this perfect, right? I made that putt, but was there too much of a hyzer, right? Did I actually get the pop that I wanted out of my hand? And so what you're really doing here is you're building up that mindfulness muscle, but you're also building up that ability to try to trust your body, to trust your training.
We used to work at Southern Utah University, and they did this study on how well certain people could control their muscles. They brought people in of all kind of like athletic ability, all kind of different builds and weights and whatever. And they hooked them up to the machine, and they would say, okay, you're going to lift this weight at 100% capacity, like lift it as much as you can. And then after that, they would say, okay, now do 50%, now do 70%, now do 30%. And they tested to see like what kind of people had the best ability to, their brain body connection is basically what they're, like when you say, I'm going to throw this full power, are you really connected to your body in a way that is deep enough to actually translate what you mean as full power, that your body like does full power? And then do you know, are you in tune with your body enough to know what 50% power is? And what they found was there was this one guy who is crazy good at disc golf, and he's just naturally so athletic, and his was like 98%, like he had 98% accuracy over his ability to say, this is 100%, I know it. It's a small sensory thing to think about, like, oh, I'm brushing this tooth, or whatever the things you're talking about. But overall, like, what you're doing is strengthening that brain body connection. And then when you go to do this putt and you start letting it go and you feel like it's going to be low, like, you know your body enough to give it that extra finger pop or not, or whatever, like, you're just in tune with your body so that you don't have to, like, consciously think about every tiny motion to the point where you're overthinking it. Your brain and body are connected enough to just do the intention.
I mean, that, like, when we're thinking about how to do something, that often gums up the process. Now, there's this really great acceptance commitment therapy or ACT approach where you have people walk, and we can talk about this maybe on another episode, but you just have people walk back and forth for a little bit, and then you'd say, like, I'm an alien. Could you explain to me how to walk? And then they kind of give you an explanation, and then you say, like, okay, could you get into more detail? Like, so how are you pushing off? How are you lifting this? Right. And then could you give me more like, so how are you getting that? What percentage are you pushing off with, like, the ball of your foot versus the sun? And by the end of this, you do this like 5, 6, 10 times, however many times you want. By the end of this, people are like shaking while they're walking.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
were you in my putting practice session yesterday? This is exactly how it went. It's like, okay, I'm gonna line this knuckle up with, and then it gets into, like, so overthinking and so overly mechanical that, like, I can't even move my body naturally anymore.
Right. Ray Allen's one of the best 3-point shooters, like, ever, I believe, and people would say, like, so what are you thinking when you go to make it, and he's not. They're like, I think they're looking for, like, a technical answer. He was saying, like, just don't get blocked, right? Like, just get open and then just let it go. Don't worry about. I'm not thinking, oh, I got to make the gooseneck, or I got to, like, throw it a little higher. No, he's just, I just want to get blocked.
Michael Jordan would always just say, just look at the basket and react. Like, he didn't have any kind of mechanical checklist or like, do this specific thing with this specific part of your body. Like, no, he would just look at the basket and let his body and react to it.
That's where, when you have, like, a mobile, like a sport that doesn't have breaks, it's easy because you can't think, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. We were just talking about this in my last tournament. We were like, maybe we should switch to pickleball. Just kidding. But it would be so much easier if I didn't have to, like, spend 5 minutes walking to the next tee and think about all of the stupid things I just did on that hole and then have to start a new one.
and so that's where you can be mindful during that walk, right? You can notice what's going on. Oh, that bird, that's an interesting bird, right? Like, we can notice what our feet feel like in our shoes. We can notice, what is the wind doing? We can notice how many other people are around us, how many people are wearing, red shirts, how many people are.
Yeah, it's those sensory cues. So do you have any other kind of, like, mindfulness practices for somebody to use on the course? Like, if they, for instance, had a bad hole and then they had to walk for 5 minutes to the next one and think about it, what would you?
So if you're going to be mindful, right, by definition, you got to be on that walk. You're not at that hole, so often.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you're not on the hole. You're not on the hole. You
exactly. Where are you? Where your feet are? Your feet are walking to the next hole.
Yeah, you got to be a goldfish. Just forget the last 3 seconds and
that's the thing. Like, our mind is like a calculator, but it doesn't have a subtraction sign, and so you can't forget, and that blows. It'd be so much easier if we could just be like, I'm going to forget that tough time. I'm going to forget that missed putt. I'm going to forget that I got second again, in the playoffs. But instead, just kind of notice that thought shows up, and then bring yourself into, okay, so what am I doing now? And so when I talk about mindfulness with clients, I often kind of use this example of, have you ever like babysat anyone? Well, you have kids actually, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a full-time babysitter. No, just kidding.
Yeah. Like where let's say you're like cooking or you're working on the podcast or something, right? And you have to finish what you're doing. And they're like, I want to play or I need your attention right now. But like if you're cooking, like the food will burn. What would you do in that situation?
Um, is this when I'm a good mom or a bad mom? No, just kidding. Dad, come get this kid.
Yeah, so let's say you're by yourself, right? Let's complicate it even more.
Okay, I would either turn the stove off and give
Mm-hmm.
them what they need, or let Disney Plus handle this one for me.
Okay. Okay. So so in both of these situations, it kind of sounds like you're like acknowledging them, right? You're not just going to
Yeah,
ignore them.
yeah,
So you're like, oh yeah, I want to play too, but I got to finish cooking, right? So like,
yes. 100%.
here, thanks Disney Plus, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Disney
Watch
Plus.
Cocomelon or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And or you say, hey, go find dad, right? Or you're able to turn the stove off, but in our lives we can't turn it off, unfortunately. And so what would happen if you though ignored them?
oh, it just gets worse.
Yeah,
It just gets worse. No, you can't just ignore it.
they get louder, maybe they like
Yeah,
pull on your arm, they knock something over, they do something to get your
totally.
attention, right? And so
Oh,
this is what happens with our thoughts when we try and ignore them, when we try and like lie to ourselves, when we go like, oh, I can't hear my kids, right? Like, they get louder. When we go, I'm not going to think about that putt. When we go, I'm not going to feel anxiety. When we go, I'm not going to worry about this next hole that I bogeyed yesterday. Um, it it gives it a reason to stay, right? Our brain goes, oh, well, you're not worried. Here's 5 more reasons you should worry.
hello, alarm bells. Let me need more.
Exactly. Right.
You're also a
And
terrible person. Not only did you miss that point.
yeah, right. And so yeah, we can have cognitive distortions in there too. And the thing is, what we want to do is just bring just kind of treat it like you would at first, though. Just when you get that thought of um like I hope that I don't miss this putt, or I can't believe I missed that, or oh, this is a hard hole, or even like, oh, I can't wait to win the championship. I just need to, I got this, right? That takes you out of the moment. Just kind of recognize that and then bring ourselves back. Recognize it in a non-judgmental way. It is what it is. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not otherwise. I saw something that said, on average we people have like 70,000 thoughts per day. What you want to do is just treat those thoughts just like you would your kids. If you don't have time to deal with them right now, because like it might be interesting sometime to go, why am I getting anxious when I play with player, J or whatever, or player K, or
Oh yeah,
uh,
Jay, he's a total dick. Sorry, all the Jays that listen.
no, yeah,
True. You needed to hear it.
that's why I put in the K, because I was like, oh no, they're gonna think I'm talking about somebody specific. But just acknowledge, just like you would your kids, it's not bad that they asked you to play during that time. It's just something they asked, and so it is what it is. Let's just, okay, that happened. I'm thinking,
Non-judgmental, check. Yes.
yep, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it is what it is. There's the non-judgmental part, and here's the redirection. Let's go. What can I do now?
The moment.
I
Non-judgmental,
can,
get back to the moment.
yep, and I can practice that, informal process of mindfulness that I worked on it formally at home, and so I know that I have that. Now I can rule the walk. UNLV's head of sports psychology, Chad Dewar said, own the walk. That's what you got to do in between holes.
I really appreciate your expertise. This was so awesome. So thank you so much for getting in contact and wanting to be a part of the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
If you have a story that you want on the show, please reach out. I would love to hear it. I love a good story on rage quitting, focusing on the wrong thing, or weird health issues that got in the way of your game, like vertigo. What the freak, body? Until next time, everyone, full send. No guts, no glory. No brains, no chains. Goodbye.
It is a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll.